Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit, and we're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the Daily Office Lectionary. I thought that today for Tuesday, we'd take a look at the second lesson that's assigned for morning prayer from the letter to the Hebrews. Once again, remember that the author of this letter is writing to the Hebrew community and explaining to them why it is that Jesus Christ is in fact the fulfillment of God's promise to send a Messiah. So we're up to chapter number 10, beginning at verse number 1. For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually, make the corners thereunto perfect. For then would they have not ceased to be offered, because that the worshippers once purged should have had no more conscience of sins. But in those sacrifices there's a remembrance again made of sins every year. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins. Wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he saith, Sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin thou hast no pleasure. Then said I, Lo, I come. In the volume of the book it is written of me, to do thy will, O God. Above when he said, Sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and offerings for sin thou wouldest not, neither hast thou pleasure therein, which are offered by the law. Then said he, Lo, I come to do thy will. O God, he taketh away the first, that he may establish the second. By the which we are sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. And every priest standeth daily ministering and offering oftentimes the same sacrifices, which never take away sins. But this man, after he had offered once a sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of God, from henceforth expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. Okay, so when we talk about the law, we're talking about the worship that is occurring, and particularly in the keeping of the statutes in the law, about the offerings and the sacrifices for the propitiation of sin. In other words, sin has a price to be paid, and so the Old Testament prescribes to us what is a temporary measure of the offering of these animals. And if you read through the book Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy and all those books, you will see the long and excruciating detail in which these particular sacrifices are to be offered for one thing or for another. And so the letter to the Hebrews, the author reminds the people that this is in fact what had been happening and was happening at the time of the writing of it in the temple every day for the sacrifice of sin. And the fact is, it was a continual motion, that it had to continue to happen because it did not really pay the price of sin. It was rather a symbolic offering that sin continued to need to be paid for. And so people came back year after year to offer the sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins. That's the original covenant, the old covenant. But what happens under the new covenant is now the price of our sin has been paid for once for all, right? What we say, the one sufficient sacrifice once offered for the forgiveness of sins. And that perfect sacrifice, of course, was Jesus Christ himself, right? So it says that, and then said, Lo, I come, O God, he taketh the first, that he may taketh away the first, that he may establish the second. By the which we're sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once and for all. And there's a lot of people out there who don't like this idea of a propitiatory sacrifice of Jesus Christ, but in fact it's right there in the Bible. And I know what we can't be doing is saying, well, I don't like it, so therefore I'm going to disregard it. It is the theology of the church, and in fact why it is that the temple is now redundant. There's no need to rebuild the temple on the Temple Mount, because the one sufficient sacrifice for sin once offered has been paid in Jesus Christ. So today is Tuesday, and it's a bit of a strange day today, Tuesday, and there will be no Holy Communion service today at 12:15, but we will resume again our regular schedule, God willing, on Wednesday. But I hope you have a day that is full of blessings.